Okay, welcome back to an update again for the Apple II and FujiNet. The best thing about making these videos is all of the corrections and updates that I get. As soon as I'm done one, there is a massive amount of work that's going on with the Apple II currently, and we're going to take a look. So this is all Apple II focused, and you can see that I'm going in and I'm going to boot up a DOS 3 image from the DISKII portion, which is where all the work has been happening lately. A ton of development work has been going on. I need to make sure that there's nothing in the smart port drives to do this little demo, and so I'm going to go ahead and boot, and it's going to mount a DOS 3 disk. Now, you saw that it tried to mount something in 6, and I had put a ProDOS disk in there, but I later learned that DOS 3 cannot even see ProDOS, so even though the FujiNet was kind enough to try to mount it, the Apple's not going to see that. So here I am inside of DOS 3 disk. It's got a whole bunch of stuff in it. I'm in basic. What I want to do, though, is do a cool little demo here that is basically going to preview some of the things coming down the line for the next release of the FujiNet. It's going to showcase some of the amazing work that's been done by by the user in Discord, FozTex. People may know him. He also runs the Retro Battle Stations on Reddit. So here we go. I created a small basic program and I saved it. So we'll do another catalog and look at that. Oh no, it's in the next page. There it is. There's a new program called FujiTest. I'll clear out basic. There's nothing in basic, and I'm going to load that little basic program that I just saved. And we'll take a look at it. Maybe even run it. And it works. It's real. It's not a trick. Now, many people who have been tracking and using the FujiNet on the Apple are going to realize, what's going on here is pretty amazing, because what is happening is that we are doing not just reads from the DISKII, but we are doing writes, and that's all due to the work done recently to enable actual writing to this. It's going to be in the next release of the firmware, so don't worry, it's all coming out. It's not out yet. You haven't missed anything. This is just a preview to get people ready. So if you do have a FujiNet for your Apple, or you're thinking about getting one, this basically pretty much completes the cycle. This is it. Not only can we read, but we can now write, which is really nice, really cool. And I will take a look at this a little bit later in this video. You're going to see some of the other second order effects that we get from being able to write now to DISKII drives loaded on it. You can see that IO error because this is back when I thought I would potentially see the ProDOS disk that I had told the FujiNet to mount in the second drive, but there's a couple issues going on here. And it goes down a whole rabbit hole of Apple internal, external disk drives, what port you're plugged into. On the Apple IIc, if on the external port, you cannot have multiple drives because the way the pins go out. You may see in the video, though, that I have my FujiNet actually plugged into the internal drive on my 2C, and I've just disabled the internal floppy because I never use it anymore. So technically, you can have two DISKII drives in the FujiNet with the way I've connected it, but it's still not going to work because, like I said, I had put in a ProDOS disk, and DOS 3 will not recognize that. So more to come on this, and just watch for our next announcement for the newest firmware, and you're going to be able to get this cool feature. All right, here's an update for Bouncy World. Bouncy World, we took a look at it in the last video. It's an amazing little app that lets multi-platform, multi-client computers connect to a persistent world called the Bouncy World, and shapes are created and will bounce between clients that are connected to the same world. You saw me just connect up to a server that I'm hosting with the client running on this Apple. Now, this isn't as interesting a demo because I'm the only one connected right now, so you won't see the bouncies leave. But if other people were connected, the bouncies would leave and go onto their screen and bounce around and come back to my screen. What we're showing here, though, is basically there's a couple advances that are made to the client. Mark has worked on this and really refined it with some help to get to the point where it's basically, as you can see, pretty flawless in terms of page buffering, and the shapes are moving around without flickering. There's also, this is in the mode where it's hidden. There is a mode where you can get some info screen and control aspects of the world. We're going to take a look at that in 1 second. Okay, you can see now the info screen gives you 2 lines of information, and it's rock solid now because of the enhancements that Mark has done to get rid of all the flickering in the client. It's very nice, even with double buffering. It is a nice rock solid. That is removed. It's viewed and hidden by using the I key. You can see there. It's info. There's a bunch of other commands that I'll go over. We didn't take a look at this last time in the previous video, so I'll go through some of these. I did an R to reset the world. Clears out all the objects, and now I'm adding some in, and it's just as easy as typing in the number. So you can see I've added a 5, a couple 3s, and a 1. That's been created. Oh no, sorry. The C there is clients. There's only one client connected. I've added some 3s and 5s. So you can see the number of each individual type of bouncy is tracked there in those inverse numbers. And they bounce along quite nicely. There's a little 1 that moves relative to the other ones even a little bit faster. Now I'll load the world up with a bunch of bouncies. You can see the clients have no problems keeping up with the amount of bouncies. In fact, if more people have been connected, it would be easier because they'd be bouncing off. The who command shows a little info window there of all the clients that are connected. If there have been more clients, I would have seen them. Freeze freezes the whole world for all client connected, and then you can unfreeze it with the F command again. And you can increase and decrease the speed of the objects in the world with the plus and minus buttons. So I bumped it up a little bit there. I reset world to clear it out, and then I'll just re-add a couple more objects with the increased speed. But not so many, so it's a little bit easy to see. Of course, if there are other clients connected, these would be bouncing off the screen and going into the other clients area for them to look at, and then they would bounce around. I'm the only one there, so it just bounces in my screen. And you can turn off the info if you want a nice clean looking screen without any text at the bottom. So this is a bunch of cool updates. The Bouncy client is on my TNFS server right now. I have a world connected up already and running. You can try this today. If you just go to my TNFS server inside the Bouncy folder and pick one of the clients that are there, Atari, Mac, or Commodore. And you can play around and take a look at this today. Maybe find someone to join you. Okay, there is another little update for Fujitzee since we had our last video. I won't go into this too much because I did a pretty comprehensive exploration of this app last time. But what I wanted to show you is, looking at the video, it's right out of frame, but I think I'm going to move it in a second. Fujitzee now has joystick support, which is kind of cool. The Atari's had it, I believe. And now the Apple II has joystick support using the common joystick library from CC65, which is what has built this application. There we go. So I moved it in there, and It's a small, minor thing, but it's kind of cool. Now you can play Fujitzee completely via joystick and moving back and forth. Makes what you expect. The button will hold the die, roll it, and pulling down on the joystick is like pushing down arrow, which in Eric's updates to this brings you to the roll immediately. So if you're all the way down, you can just pull down on the joystick and it pops right back to roll. You also can move off of the rightmost die and it wraps around to the leftmost die, or vice versa, so you don't have to use a bunch of controls going back and forth. You can just rotate around them like a carousel. So some cool improvements, and the joystick makes it a little bit more fun to play if you've already got a joystick connected to your Apple. And so there you go. That is Fujitzee with joystick control. Enjoy it. Okay, we're here with another edition called Lobby, and what has happened is the lobby command has been put into the Apple II config. This is really cool. Eric Carr again has ported the lobby to Apple, and if you look now, you can see at the bottom the L command, and I just typed it. Now L is one button way to launch into the game lobby. Now I've run the game lobby and I can see any of the games that are available. Fujitzee is here. It just, because of a little bug that's outstanding, it's not being shown, but 5-Card Stud is here. By the time this is released, you'll see all the games that are part of the FujiNet game lobby. So I'm able to go in and just push a button, a one-stop button. I don't have to go find the client for that game. I can just select it from the lobby. It automatically chain loads it. The Apple's rebooting, and here I am inside of 5-Card Stud. So this is really cool. This brings it to parity with the Atari, and being able to use the lobby right out of the config just makes it so simple. Again, you don't have to track where is the lobby, how do I connect, what games are in the lobby, who is playing in what games in the lobby, and where are the client apps. Right now, if you want to play Eric's amazing games like Yahtzee or 5-Card Stud, you have to add him in his own TNFS server into your config, go into his TNFS server, and then load the clients. It's not a huge amount of work, but having the lobby is one of the things that makes the FujiNet game service pretty frictionless and super easy to use for anyone, because anyone who owns a FujiNet, at some point in their time, they're going to be inside of config, and now one L command can bring them right into the awesome FujiNet game environment where they can play multiplayer games across platform with each other. Okay, here we go. Wolfenstein, Castle Wolfenstein. No, not that it's been ported. It's the original Castle Wolfenstein for the Apple IIc. And as you can see, I inserted it in the FujiNet using the DISKII controller, but with a special twist that is going to do something very special now with the enhancements that have been made to the DISKII portion of the FujiNet. Right back at the beginning of this video, I showed you that basic program, which means we can actually write to those disks now. Well, guess what? Games like Castle Wolfenstein, beyond Castle Wolfenstein, many other games, they expect to be able to write to the disk. They write to the disk and persist, I think, the current fortress that you're in. And up until this point in time, if we only were able to mount the DISKII images as read-only, it doesn't work. So look at this right there, writing disk file. You can plainly see this is a really cool effect of having DISKII write feature done by Vostex. I can actually play Castle Wolfenstein now because it was able to go out and write those sectors to my disk for me while I was playing. Now, this does have other effects that we need to take into account. In other words, that did write and change the mounted disk image on my TNFS server. Theoretically, you'd probably want to have this in your SD card so that it's your game, but we'll come to that as we get this out. This is going to be an amazing new feature for the next release of FujiNet, and it's one that people have been asking for a long time. And it's very cool. We're all looking forward to it. All right. What's this? Oh, Beyond Wolfenstein. Not really much of a demo. Nothing new that you've learned here. I just think it's so super cool that we can play these games now that I also wanted to throw in Beyond Castle Wolfenstein. It's a pretty cool game. And the one thing I love about it compared to the original Wolfenstein is you don't have to go through all those screens waiting. It runs pretty fast, and it's pretty cool. They are still extremely hard to control for me, and I don't get very far in any of these games, but it's cool to see it, and it's cool to know now that you can play it on the FujiNet just by mounting it into the DISKII drive area on the FujiNet, and you're ready to go. You can see here I need to make sure that the smart port drives are all empty before I mount. Otherwise, I actually think the Apple will prefer to boot off the DISKII and ignore the smart port, but it's always best to be safe. So yeah, Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, it's a cool game, and when this release comes out with writing enabled on DISK2 for the FujiNet, it's going to open the doors to all of these games that expected you to have a writable floppy in your drive. Oh, and before I forget, there's Mastondon. So I pretty much needed to update every single client that I made a video about in just the previous video. Mastondon has already been updated, as you can see. It supports 80 columns. If you remember, just in my video from the other day, I had a really old Mastodon client and forgot to rebuild it that had the 40 columns, and I remarked that it would be useful and something that I might even try to update it. But it has been already updated, as you can see. It's a little bit harder to read on this composite output with 80 columns, but if you had a nice sharper monitor, you would not run into these issues. So Mastondon is available on my TNFS and others, so it's there if you want to stay in touch with what's happening in the Mastondon universe. And that's it. Thanks for watching the second update video. Hopefully there won't be any further updates to these until we have our actual release, which is coming out in, again, hopefully a couple weeks, but you never know. Definitely within, I think, a month, and that is going to have big updates for the Apple II, as you can see from these past two videos. Lots of changes for the Apple II. It's going to pretty much be near feature complete, I think, for a lot of features that people were used to on the Atari. And then the next target is Coco and, of course, Commodore 64, so stay tuned.